to be presenting today, especially on a topic that I'm super passionate about, which is storytelling and creative expression in any way, shape, or form. And I have linked this back to connecting or reconnecting with your inner child, because that is where the sense of play and curiosity and wonder always comes from. If you think about a child, and when we were younger, we were so curious about everything that we just tried everything. So today's topic and what I'm going to speak about is something that I have worked through over the last 4 years in terms of reconnecting with my inner child, and how I found my love for storytelling again through experiences and things that happened to me that helped me become the expert of my own story, which I firmly believe that we all are. We may not be the experts in absolutely everything, but we will always be the experts of our own stories. So to give you a bit of a rundown and a bit of background info into who I am and what I do, I don't even think I said my name. My name is Monique Medved. I am a podcaster, I'm a YouTuber, I'm a content creator, and I am a storyteller. I have always been a storyteller ever since I was a kid. And right now I have a platform called Be More You, which I also do with one of my really good friends. And basically the concept of that platform is to generate and create a storytelling platform where we encourage people to be more like themselves and less like everybody else. Our goal is to make that a global movement. And to be honest with you, I think we're on the path to doing that. So that's a bit about what I do. As I said, everything angles around that love for storytelling, and it's a passion that I had ever since I was a kid. And growing up, I kind of started to lose that sense of what I loved doing, because as we all do when we get older, we get told so many things, and layers upon layers of crap starts to get piled on top of us, and we begin to lose ourselves in all that because we're told to do things a certain way, we're told to look a certain way, we're told to be a certain way. But when you remove all those layers and you just come back to that person that you know you've always been, that's where the magic happens. That's where that sense of wonder and curiosity and just pure enjoyment for life and different perspectives comes into play. So that's a bit about what I do. I want to talk about today more specifically reconnecting with that child. We all have an inner child, whether you believe it or not. We are all creative people, whether you believe it or not. People that come to me all the time and say, oh, but I'm not creative, I can't paint, or I can't do a YouTube video because I don't know how to video edit. It's a load of crap. Every single person, whether you are a tradie, whether you are a mother, whether you are an artist, whatever it might be, creativity comes in all forms. How we creatively express ourselves can come through different mediums. It can come through problem solving. It's all about how you look at a situation or something that's being presented to you, and almost learn how to pivot and create new solutions from that thing or that scenario. So a lot of what I have been uncovering and rediscovering about myself over the last 4 years has been, what did I want to be when I was younger? And when I asked myself that question 4 years ago, when I felt like my life had completely fallen apart and I was at what I called my version of rock bottom, which would be very different to your version of rock bottom. But sitting there and asking myself that question, what do you want to do? It was too blurry. I didn't know, because up until that point I had constantly been told I had to be a certain way and I had to achieve a certain amount of things by a certain age. And I was just a confused 22-year-old. But when I asked myself the question, what did you want to be when you were younger? The answer always came back to, well, actually it was a film director, a Hollywood film director, and an author. And the two things that those have in common is storytelling and sharing experiences. And I think everybody is a creative, but everybody is also a storyteller. And the reason I say that is because everybody has a story to tell. You are the author of your own destiny. You are the author of your own book and architect of your own life, and all those cliche sayings. You are those things. Every single day you have the choice to choose what you do next. And from that decision or that choice that's been made, it opens up a whole new bunch of choices and decisions to be made. So I guess what today is going to be about and what I want to talk about is how to actually move past blocks when you tell yourself, oh, I've got a creative block, or I'm procrastinating. There's two things I like to talk about with perfectionism and procrastination, and also the idea of inspiration versus motivation. When you're a creative person, it gets really, really hard to sometimes stay motivated. That's where there's a big question we can ask ourselves when we do find ourselves stuck. It's pretty simple. Is this really what I want to be doing? Is the question. So I think we'll start off with asking yourself that question. If you are somebody who knows their purpose, if you're somebody that knows what they're doing right now is the thing because it's what you've wanted to do, then awesome, that's fantastic. But if you're watching this and you're sitting there going, I have absolutely no idea what I'm supposed to do or where I'm supposed to go next, that's okay. That's great. That's awesome. If you're acknowledging that right now, good on you. But I want you to ask yourself that question. What did you want to be when you were younger? What was the thing that you used to do when you were a child that would set your soul on fire? And it might not be the thing you're meant to be doing right now, but there will be elements of what you wanted to be when you were younger that still as an adult you cling onto and you hold onto that actually brings you joy. So just sit with that question. You don't have to have an answer right now, but sit with that question and just ask yourself, and then list the characteristics of why that made you happy as a child. Why did that thing make you feel alive? Because if you answer that honestly and truthfully, I can guarantee you when you start searching and trialing and making mistakes, moving forward from where you are right now, that question will always come back and it will be the guiding light to what you're supposed to be doing next. I think as a creative person, and somebody who I used to label myself a perfectionist constantly, and I have a real issue with people who label themselves perfectionists because it's just that, it's a label. And when we attach labels to our identity, it actually stalls us creatively, because we tell ourselves that we are that thing and we can't shift and we can't move. When you are trying to express yourself in any way, shape, or form, it's really, really hard to break labels, as instead of being like, I have the habit of procrastinating, or I have the habit of being a perfectionist. Labeling ourselves as something is what causes us to feel stuck. And whether you are a business owner, whether you are a filmmaker, whatever it is that you are right now, labeling yourself something like a perfectionist is what causes procrastination. And it kills creativity. It kills imagination. To be somebody who can express themselves however they see fit, you need to have that flexibility to shift and change and pivot. Who you are today is not going to be the person that you're going to be in 6 months' time. It might not be the person that you're going to be in 3 weeks' time, and that's a good thing, because as human beings, we evolve. We grow, we adapt, things happen to us, experiences, life, things get thrown at us constantly. That requires us to shift and change. And it's a beautiful thing if you can sit in that space and absorb it, see it for what it is, and then take what you need in that moment to move forward. I love it when someone says to me, I have this idea, I just don't know how to go about it. This is where that sense of curiosity and wonder as a child that we lose comes into play, because you live in a world of limitless possibilities. There are things that you could do today that could set you up for 10 years' time. And it's a beautiful place to sit in, to just be curious. I look at children as my biggest source of inspiration, because they are the most present human beings. They are living in the moment. They don't see anything else except what's right in front of them. They trust their intuition. And as a creative person, intuitively trusting yourself in a moment is actually what allows you to fully express yourself. It's what allows you to speak your truth. It's what allows you to share your story. And I think the biggest part the biggest discredit we have as adults as we get older is we, in a way, get our imagination and our curiosity and our wonder crushed because, again, we get told that what we may be feeling, what we may be thinking, it's not valid. I'm telling you right now, everything you feel and experience in your life is completely, completely valid. Everything you've been through up until this point contributes to part of your story. And that story is completely valid. And that story has the power to change somebody else's life. So when it comes to storytelling in general, you can do it through all different mediums. It doesn't have to be through a YouTube channel. It doesn't have to be through a podcast. It can be through the messaging of your business. If you are your business, if you are your brand, speak your truth. And that gets really scary for us to do. But I think when we take ownership of our lives, if we take ownership of the person that we know we are at the core, that transcends into everything we do. Whether it is business, whether it is family, whether it is conversations with friends, seeking connection within community, that becomes fully transparent. And I think as adults, when we get older, we get stuck with this whole idea, or we hit a roadblock where we feel really misunderstood. And the reason we feel really misunderstood is because we're constantly showing up in the world as somebody we know we're not. When we do that, it's a discredit to ourselves. We stop trusting our intuition. We stop trusting our feelings. We stop trusting all the things that we know to be true. Why do we do that? Because as children, when we'd show up in the world and we were fully present and we trusted our gut instinct and we trusted and followed our intuition and we were curious and we were seeking wonder in everything, we were the most us we've ever been. It's why children have so much innocence, because they are just who they are. And as we get older and experiences and life happens, that starts to get chipped away at. And again, like I said earlier, layers and layers and layers get put on top of us. As an adult, if we continue to do that, if we continue to show up to the world as somebody we know we're not, we don't feel seen and we don't feel heard and we feel really misunderstood, then we get really angry and frustrated, and then we start doing things that we know aren't the right thing for us, whether that's a career, whether it's, getting into relationships that we just know is not for us, whether it's staying in friendships or putting up with family that have hurt us in the past. We don't trust ourselves anymore. That trust and that intuitive feeling that we had as children leaves us. We start to get really disconnected from them. And that's where I think it's this really beautiful thing to reconnect with your inner child and then allow yourself to be as creatively free as possible. And what I mean by creatively free, it doesn't actually mean creating things physically. It's, again, seeking the wonder, seeking the curiosity in everything and questioning yourself in moments where you're doing something and you don't really know and understand why you're doing it. This is where the aspect, I think, of motivation and inspiration comes into play. We constantly tell ourselves that we need to be really, really motivated to get things done. Motivation is like the thing that we all strive to have. She's so motivated to do this, or she's such a perfectionist because she's so motivated to succeed. Why don't we ever say, wow, she's so inspired to just keep trying and keep going? I think when you ask yourself in a moment where you feel like you really, really need to push and motivate yourself, just asking yourself, does this still inspire me? Am I inspired by what I'm doing? Am I inspired by what I'm speaking? Am I inspired by the people that I'm surrounding myself with? That's being curious. That's allowing yourself the freedom to then show up and express yourself how you actually need to be expressed and how you want to be seen and how you want to be heard. They are the three core fundamental things as children that we need. To be seen, to be heard, and to be loved or understood. That's four, but generally it's to be loved, to be seen, and to be heard. And when we feel like we are not having those three criteria met, that's when we feel really misunderstood. That's when it's really easy for us to fall into the laps of what everybody else wants us to be. That's when we fall into the whole structure of how society has told us we have to act in order to be a success. That's when we start to feel trapped in our environment, within our minds, within our bodies, because that little kid is banging on the door saying, hey, hello, you're not listening to me. You are not listening to me. You promised me that when we were younger, we were going to go out and we were going to go do this. So why the hell are we doing this? It's just about asking yourself the question. In the spiritual world, people always say, you need to go inward, you need to go inward, you need to go inward. Absolutely true. I'm not dissing the spiritual world at all, because you do. Inner work requires you to go inward. You can't seek things from outside. You have to go in. For me, I think when I started to ask myself those questions, it was because everything around me just stopped feeling right. My job wasn't right. I was constantly seeking motivation just to get through my day. I wasn't inspired by anything. Everything just felt really mundane for me. And what it took for me to reconnect with my inner child, and I'm not saying you have to go do this, but this was my experience and my story of how I really honestly did feel the connection within myself to that kid that was banging on that door. It was when I was in Nepal 4 years ago. And Nepal had been a dream of mine, specifically seeing Mount Everest when I was 8 years old. I used to write in this little book. It was like Mon's bucket list of things to do when she's an adult. And I think it was like number 3. It was very, very high on the ladder. Go and see Mount Everest. And I remember it so vividly, writing that and going, this is crazy. This is insane. You can't just go to Mount Everest and see Mount Everest. You have to be like so crazy to go and do that. And then without really realizing it in 2019, after I'd booked it, not even thinking that or remembering that that was something I'd actually written to myself as a child to do, I did it. I remember standing at the foot of Mount Everest Base Camp, looking up, and this little voice in me literally said, finally, you did it. And it was in that moment that I just felt like this new person had come alive. Maybe not even new person, but I felt like something had finally connected in me, and I found this newfound inspiration, but I found the inspiration within myself. So to have done something that I told myself I was going to do when I was a child, then sparked this whole new perspective on life. I ended up coming home, I quit my job, I sold everything I owned, and I ended up booking a trip to Thailand because I had the intention of moving over. Because I just needed to get away from this life around me that I had built up, and not so much run away from it, but to just create space to show myself like, this is not what you want. This is what everybody else wants for you. It's not what you want, but you also don't know what you want right now, and that's okay. Let's go and just seek the opportunities. Let's go seek answers. Let's go seek that curiosity that you had as a child. And after that moment, it was like everything I ever did after that, no matter what it was, every decision, every choice, I would always look inward and I would ask the little girl in me, do we want to do this? Do we want to go and do this thing? Does this feel right for us? If not, we won't do it. I won't do it. That connection piece, that when you reconnect with the part of you that has been longing to be heard and to be seen, it is the most liberating, freeing feeling in the world. Because once you tap into her, once you find that version of yourself that you have locked away for years and years, decades even, and you let her out and you give her the limelight and you say to her, I hear you, I see you, I love you. That is the greatest form of self-love you could ever give yourself. After that trip, I had decided that from that point on, nobody was going to tell me how to tell my story. Nobody was ever gonna tell me to be quiet if I had a truth that needed to be spoken about. Nobody was ever gonna dictate how I felt in a moment, because I was too connected again. And that's not easy to do. It's not. I'm not sitting here. I never sit here and think that these things are easy, because it was the most traumatic period of my life. But what I am saying is that it's very possible to reconnect with your inner child, no matter your age. And when you do, when you sit and you do that inner work and you ask yourself those really uncomfortable questions and wait for the answer to come, you will start showing up to your life at 100% as the person you've always known yourself to be. I stand by that statement wholeheartedly. And doing Be More You now and encouraging people to find that connection within themselves again and to be the person that they've always known themselves to be and to show up to the world as that person is to show that you are loved as that person. You will be heard as that person. You'll be seen as that person. And when you get to that stage, the endless possibilities that will present themselves, it's incredible, because now you get to go out and you get to share your experiences and you get to tell the world what you've been through. And there will be somebody out there that, you know, your story becomes their survival guide. And it becomes this ripple effect and this almost community, a collective energy that allows you to feel safe enough in an environment where it's okay to be you. I think with a lot of people who come to me wanting to start businesses and even podcasts and YouTube channels and whatever it might be, they really don't understand what they're doing and why they're doing it. And it's easy to fall into that trap. I have fell into that trap many a times. Many a times. And I think applying the same principles of finding that connection within your inner child and allowing yourself to creatively express however you see fit, that requires confidence within yourself, right? You can't have that confidence if you don't know yourself well enough. The confidence builds when you stay consistent with the person that you know you are. You don't shapeshift to suit this group of people and then you shapeshift on a Monday to Wednesday to suit this group of people. It's understanding yourself so wholeheartedly and fully that nobody can actually dictate and tell you who you are. There's a quote that I want to leave you with that I actually found the other day, and I think it sums up creativity and intuition and allowing yourself to just be fully expressed as the person you are. So this is what it said. The most important step of creativity is cultivating a relationship with your intuition. Dropping into alignment with your inner wisdom is worth more than weeks of aimless productivity. I'm going to leave it there because I spoke about a lot of different things in this segment, and if you found any of it useful, please let me know. Reach out to me on Instagram. I'm just Monique Medved. And yeah, I do. I really hope that no matter where you're at in your life, no matter what it is that you're currently doing, no matter where it is that you want to be, allow yourself to be. Allow yourself to show up as the person that you know you are. And if you're not too sure of who that person is, that's okay. That is more than okay. Start somewhere. Start today. Start asking yourself the questions of what actually inspires you. Who inspires you? And be your own damn source of inspiration sometimes too. I hope you guys enjoyed this talk. I hope you do the things that you love. I hope that no matter what? Always spread love and kindness to yourself and to other people, and I will see you around hopefully soon.